Okay, we're not in court anymore.
Glad to say that.
Yeah.
And wait until, when I call it to order, don't everybody jump up. Oh, that's fun.
Are we in meeting?
All right, calling to order the City Council Business Meeting of June 11th, 2024. Councilmember Miller, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Could we start with the roll call of officers, please?
Westwood,
Here.
Conley. Here. Daniel. Here. T. Present. Miller.
Here.
Ronnie. Yes. Tupin. Here.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Conley, second by Ronnie. Any discussion? All right, let's go ahead and take a vote, please.
Conley.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Tupin.
Yes.
All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of May 14th.
I move to accept the minutes of May 14th.
Second?
Motion by Ronnie, second by Conley. Are there any comments regarding the minutes of May 14th? Hearing none, let's do a vote.
Conley.
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Tupin.
Yes.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 28th.
I move to approve the minutes of May 28th.
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Ronning, a second by Conley for the minutes of May 28th. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I move to amend the minutes of May 28th for the motion for Resolution 3632. It should be motion by Daniel, second by Ronning. You could please correct that.
There is a motion on the floor for an amendment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Ronning, a second by Daniels for the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Freezing.
Let's go ahead and vote on the amendment for the minutes of 28.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel? Yes. Steve?
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronning? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
All right, back to the original motion to approve the minutes of May 28th as amended. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, can we get a vote?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Steve?
Abstain.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
All right. I will entertain a motion for warrants payable.
I will make a motion to approve warrants payable in the amount of $853,547.39.
I will second.
Motion by Keith, second by Ronning. Discussion?
There was a couple bond payments in there that brought it up, the pool bond payment, the second half of that. We paid, and the stormwater project was, and, yeah, $300,000. And didn't we pay, who did we pay $155,000 to for a, that was another bond payment that we paid Bank of Red Lodge.
Yeah, so there's one for the SID.
Okay.
There's one for the.
Yeah, that was the SID, yeah.
And then there was,
Another-
our water or sewer bonds.
Yes.
Okay.
How many
So
more?
several of those payments that were collected on taxes, and it's
Right.
just the timing.
Yeah, correct, yes.
Yeah, the SID
Yes.
and.
Correct. I don't have to.
Councilmember Conley.
Wasn't the SID passed for 10 years, and how close are we?
We have a couple more.
You think we're about 8 years in?
I believe so. Yeah, I think we've got 2 more rounds.
I knew that we were kind of getting closer.
All right, any other questions or comments on the warrants payable? And again, for the public, those are in a folder in the hallway, in the public documents that they're available to review by anybody in the public. Hearing no other discussion, let's go ahead and do the vote, please.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
All right, motion passes, thank you. All right, we are down to mayor's business. I would like to start by, proposing that we make a change based on the recommendation from Council President Ronning. Again, the reason that I'm doing it is that the way our documents currently read is that those committees are appointed by the mayor. However, the council felt that we liked those positions being determined by the council president. Until such time as it's changed, then what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and I would like the council's approval to swap Councilmember Miller to the admin and Councilmember Tupin to the planning committee. Can somebody make a motion to approve
I would move to approve, moving Doug to admin and Chelsea to, land use and planning.
I will second.
All right, motion by Conley, second by Daniels. Any comment? All right, so let it be written, so let it be done. All right, mayor's report. You may note that our agenda is short. That's not because there's not a lot going on. It's just that a lot of it is executing the to-do list and things in the background. So still working on the budget, still working on the airport. Thank you for the additional time on that. I think what will happen is as I get those edits done, we will have time to bring it to council before we send it out for external review. I'm also looking for the best mechanism to identify a third-party review to review that. I'd like to be as far away from that decision as possible. And so I'm still kind of investigating how we do that. I'm not sure the league will just make a recommendation. Maybe we'll put names in the hat or have council. We'll figure out how to do it, but I just want to be far from that decision to avoid the appearance of anything other than we're just getting a second opinion. Yellowstone land swap, we're still waiting to get that property, the appraisal turned back in. So again, all of these are basically on me or on staff. Rocky Ford Inn is moving forward. I think we shared previously with the council that we got some additional state money to help with that project. And so that will be helpful. Again, just for public comment, there will be no local monies going into the acquisition of the property. It will be FEMA and or state funds. The phase one has been ordered. What's actually happening is the state is waiting to see if the local RC&D will do it. They always prefer to do the local settings closer to the source. And so that's why the delay on the phase one, but is anticipated that that'll still be done. Setting up a meeting next week, we're hoping to have a closing date in July, which would still give us time to take that down this year, hopefully. Still have an open staff position, which is part of just being busy, not getting to it, combined with the just understanding where we are in the budget before we make any commitments along those lines. We also did get an initial update on the lease for the sewer overflow property that has bucking stock with a B on it. So that's going to go out for public bid. So that's the objective is to get that done well before next year. So that is in process, but still not ready for council yet.
Okay.
Any questions or comments on any of that? All right, we do have a planning board position. The original intent was that that was going to be open for action tonight. However, Carbon County News had some technical issues and it ended up not getting posted. So it has been posted now, and again, we check and verify that when we run those to make sure it is, and it is there this time. And so the anticipation is that we will be looking for council to appoint someone to the planning board. This will be a council decision. Again, that's assuming that we have a candidate who is acceptable to council. And I said, just like if we only have one, that doesn't, we can run it again if needed. So it takes 4 votes from council to add somebody to planning board. Just from a public interest standpoint, wanted to just provide, an update on the spring runoff. I think we're in good shape. We've had a couple of days where we've learned new highs that we know were good. We have multiple agencies working together, people checking at all times of the day and night. So I feel pretty good. We've got a half a dozen spots that we look at as kind of representative. Appreciate if nobody would wash their car for a week or two or leave a window down just to cover our bases. But our runoff is significantly lower now. So even with the higher temperatures, it's not hurting as much as when the rain was there. Do want to provide just a quick summary of the Renaissance event. Even though that's now a couple weeks past, we've kind of forgot about that and moved on. Saturday presented some challenges that were new. We had kind of an emergency swap meeting that night and put in some changes with the event coordinators for Sunday, and it went much more smoothly. And we had an additional follow-up meeting with all the emergency personnel last week, and there were some suggestions and recommendations out of that that have gone to council standing committees. I look forward to hearing maybe if there's any updates on that when we get to the council part of the agenda. Okay. All right. This is the part where there's some long stuff in here. So this Saturday, June 15th at 9 a.m. is the Arbor Day celebration. This is different from the tree sharing program. At 9 o'clock at Rotary Park, there's going to be a tree planting demo. So this is an additional, this was a $38,000 grant we got from Arbor Day. They are doing 42 trees in areas that were impacted by the flood. One of them will actually be planted the night before. So that morning, there's going to be a demo at 9 o'clock for the volunteers that are going out and planting the trees. You may see that there's already some holes with pylons in them as they start to prep that. So at 9 o'clock, that's when the event will start, and they'll do that demo for, again, the volunteers that are there and for anybody who wants. Because in addition to those 42 trees, there's also 100 trees that are going to be available to the public. Anybody who's interested, there's a Facebook event on Red Lodge Buzz that has that information. If you pre-register to help as a volunteer in planting those trees, you get first dibs at the 100 trees that are out there. There's 10 each of 10 different varieties. And then on Saturday, the rest of the remainder of those trees will go open to the public. So that is in place of the tree sharing program. So just for those who may not be aware, the tree sharing program, there was a cost associated with it. The cost was borne part by the city and part by the individual getting the trees. This year, the trees are free, but they're also not planted. So you need to plant them and take good care of them so that they're still there in 2 years. Mike Taylor, who has been done the labor on the tree planting in past years, is available to help, scheduling permitted. That's a cost which would be borne by the individual owners. But it should be noted he'll do that on private property. He will not do it in the public right of way. So whereas we were not doing the tree sharing program, he didn't pay the bond and insurance to be working in the public right of way. So he won't be doing that. Any questions on the Arbor Day activities? All right. Monday, June 17th, at 5:30, the Urban Renewal District meeting is going to meet here for the regular meeting, but they will very quickly adjourn, and they are going to do a walking tour of the Urban Renewal District. So council, and in fact, anybody in the public who would like to go on that is welcome to do that. Be here at 5:30 on Monday, June 17th. And I believe that's going to include a tour on the inside of the pecannery and the art that's down there. So if that's something you haven't seen yet, that's worth seeing. Missing from the agenda, you may have noticed, is the addressing project. So the short version is, in talking to, let me rephrase that. In listening to the different members of our emergency response team, fire, police, ambulance, they're going round and round in circles as to whether we need it and why we need it. And basically, there's two main arguments for it. And they both kind of center around public safety, and so we need direction from them and them to come to a conclusion and then bring it to council first. So we're on hold and waiting for them. The other thing that I was going to announce is in the works, but some of you may have seen that it actually happened this morning, is we had MDOT come down and did a walking tour of the sidewalks on Broadway and made the discovery that most of the issues on Broadway were actually a byproduct of the water project that was done several years ago. If you go through and look wherever there was a water main, it's to the size of that where it sunk down. The good news about that is that puts it kind of in the city's responsibility to fix and resolve the issue. So this morning, they did a test. There's been a bid put together by our Public Works Director. It looks like it's between $70,000 and $80,000 to fix the sidewalks all the way down both sides of Broadway through the business district.
What was that number?
I think it's 77,000, but it's between 70 and 80, and that's just an estimate at this point in time. There are two parts of that. There is the lifting, which they basically do is they go in and they drill and they squirt a foam in underneath it and it picks the panels up and then makes them very solid. And then there's a secondary part where they go back and grind it. And so about half of that is the lifting portion, about half of that is the grinding portion. And so he was able to come in and do the demo this morning. So that was done. The reviews, I believe, were mostly positive. It was done early, so it didn't interrupt traffic. But I anticipate what we'll do is we will have that in front of council to kind of look at and consider the cost of that. There's a couple of different options. Whereas it was tied to our water project, it's perfectly valid to use some of that from our water. Whereas some of it is streets related, we could use some street money. And the Resort Tax Committee has also come forward and said that is something that falls into the resort tax. There's a little bit of discussion about whether and I should say this discussion has happened among staff at this point. It has not been presented to the business owners as to whether there should be a buy-in there, like $300 per storefront or something. The argument and initial pushback from them is, we gave you back 5% of resort tax that we used to be able to keep, use that 5% for our share. And ultimately, I think what I'll do is I'll take the cowardly way out and take direction from council on how we want to approach that. So I'd like to see that probably in your public works discussions next time. You guys come forth with a recommendation.
Mayor Dave? I had heard that the first 5 feet of our sidewalk belongs to MDT. The other 5 feet belong to the property owner. So every sidewalk has 2 big chunks, and that's MDT's, and this is, so, not true?
So, not quite accurate. So the sidewalks are actually all owned by MDOT, but what we have in place is an MOU with them. And what that MOU says is that if the panel that needs replaced is basically a less than a 6-foot project, it is the city's responsibility, but it leaves it open for the city to give that to the adjacent property owners, which is how our code currently reads. If it is replacement, like a 6-foot panel, and there were a half a dozen places that were identified, then it is the responsibility of MDOT to come in and replace those. And again, they came down and went through and helped form that assessment, and they're happy to do that. Those panels might take a little bit longer to get to, but the goal is, I'd really like to see us have smooth sidewalks down both sides of Broadway by the end of the year, by the end of the season even, without disrupting.
That'd be shocking.
I think I would appreciate that.
Shocking. Did MDT agree to change out the signage because they messed up and didn't do north and south of Broadway?
So that conversation did come up. The question, for those who may not have heard in the audience, was there conversation regarding the signs which are not ADA compliant, they don't reflect properly? The answer is that conversation did come up. It was not the group that was here, so it has been escalated and we are addressing it with them. I think that's everything.
All right.
Wow.
Any other questions that council would like updates on that I did not address?
Just the usual. Has Eagle Nest moved any further on conversations at all, or are you not worried about that until Rocky is done?
Both of those are a little bit true. It is still on the table. However, the majority of efforts are being directed to finishing Rocky Fork as opposed to pushing or hand-holding him through the process. We have made ourselves available. We have made resources other than the city available to do that, but we have not yet reached out to hold his hand because we're busy.
Okay, just want to double check.
Did I understand the question properly?
Nope, that's exactly what I needed.
All right. Any other questions from council? All right, thank you. At this point, we will open public comment, this is for comment on anything on the agenda. You will have 3 minutes, to speak. If you would, come up to the podium and state your name, direct your comments to me, please. And then please understand this is your opportunity to be heard. It doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a response provided tonight, but we can follow up on it and appropriately later. So I will also call out that there is a public comment period at the end of the agenda where you can speak on anything you would like to. So with that, we'll go ahead and open the public comment on the agenda. We'll start with those in the room. Not seeing any rush to the podium. We'll go to online if there's any comments online. Hearing none, going twice. Going 3 times, and we'll go ahead and close the public comment on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the T-bid budget.
I move to approve the T-bid budget for the 24-25 budget season.
Do I have a second?
A second?
Motion by Ronning, second by Daniels. Discussion.
I believe Ms. Kelsey is going to.
Yeah, I'll just introduce Miss Hannah, actually,
Okay.
who is going to give a presentation on T-bid, what that is, what they do, and why they're a wonderful asset to the community.
You want to do the presentation, do that too?
And if you hit the little line there, it'll minimize that window. Oh, it might be on their screen.
I have.
Right.
We should just move this to there.
Well,
Yeah.
you can do it either way. We're all right.
You want to get your steps in this way.
That's right.
All right, you have the floor. If you'd start by stating your name and address.
My name's Hannah Pulley. I live on 1508 South Broadway Avenue. I am the president of T-bid, and this is our vice president, Tulsa Dean. This is kind of a similar presentation that we did last year, so, but for those who are not familiar, what is T-bid? It stands for Tourist Business Improvement District. Our mission is fairly simple. It's to generate room nights for lodging facilities in the city of Red Lodge, Montana, by effectively marketing our city as a preferred travel destination. So in short, we want to put heads in beds with marketing initiatives. So who pays into T-bid? Hotels and short-term rental management companies within city limits. The STR limit is 3 properties or more, so we don't just allow one-off properties, but it has to have 3 or more properties to contribute. It is a $2 assessment per room night, so if somebody books a room, there will be a $2 assessment added to their room fee that the guest pays. And then every quarter, the T-bid collects those funds, and that is where our budget comes from. The money all just goes towards destination marketing efforts. We do a lot of sponsoring events, creating like print and digital advertisements. We do those Fairtrade Highway brochure maps that go distributed all over the place. And I have a few examples of what else we kind of do. And first, we also work very closely with the chamber. Sherry comes to pretty much all of our meetings, so we know that we're not duplicating efforts, and we're working as a team to really kind of like stretch our budget and help, you know, pull in together to create new marketing pieces for the town. This is the chamber's website that has a page with a little bit of information on T-bid. and where you can also download our grant application. That's fairly new that we worked on this year for this page to be up and running. So, yeah, hopefully a little bit more information available to the public. Some examples of what we funded last year. Red Lodge Events, we worked a lot with. She puts on a lot of races kind of all year round. So that picture on the top left is the Red Lodge Randonnée race. That was over the winter, a skimo race that people came and skied up the Black Mountain, and then we tried to make sure that they stayed the night in town to generate more revenue. We do Red Lodge High School. We've done sport tournaments. We've helped sponsor Red Lodge Proud and Beautiful with the flower baskets and fireworks, the Renaissance Festival, car show. Basically any event in town that people know about, we've probably sponsored if they've submitted an application. We also sent a few of our board members to the governor's conference the last few years, which is just a good educational piece for us. It's all on tourism, helps us kind of know where to put our marketing efforts towards. Yeah. And then to add examples that are, Jenny Zimmerman is our,
She's worked with us in the chamber.
Contract work.
Yeah, CVB, she's contracted to do the advertisement for online marketing and just getting
Yeah.
it set up for.
a lot of creative piece. Yeah, so she designed this ad. This one went in, I think it's the
Race
Yeah, Race in the West.
Race in the, yeah, sorry, like it's somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Okay, Race in the West, and then there's another one below that's a little bit different. This one was more to promote off-season tourism, travel, and this one was in the Western Ag advertisement. So she helps us do all of that. That gets printed out.
No, you're fine. You don't.
And then, yeah, our budget was pretty similar to last year. Few small changes we did, increase the events and advertising. We just would love to see some more events, especially those smaller events come on that need a little bit more money to help kind of boost their participants. So we'd love to see more of that. We'd also like to do a little bit more digital advertising and some social media strategy that we've talked about. So we allocated that in our budget for next year to hopefully grow on that aspect. And then generally just a lot of other things just went up slightly just due to general increases with costs increasing. And so that overall just decreased our opportunity fund, as you can see. So opportunity went down, but everything else went up just a little bit mostly, so. And then to break down the budget more, yeah, our expected collections, we went with $105,000. That's what we did last year, and anticipated from last year. We thought that was pretty safe, just given that it's looking like a good summer, but we don't know, any floods or, any fire, anything can happen, I know. Anything can happen, so, sad snow year, so we just wanted to play it safe and kept it from the same year, because we did I think we're pretty spot on from collections from last year. We have a pretty significant rollover funds that basically, I think from COVID years that had collected when we weren't doing a lot of marketing to Red Lodge, so that collected for a while, so our total budget we're working with is $194,983.03. So yeah, our admin, we always keep it at 3%. That pays our bookkeeping to the chamber that they do, plus some office supplies and stuff. Advocacy is new this year. We do have some people working like at the doing some lobbying at the legislature that we've sponsored and kind of helped support. Again, I said we've upped our advertising just for some new ideas that initiatives that we'd like to start with social media and some digital stuff. Our agency fee is the same. That's what Jenny's been doing, and she does a really, really great job with what she does. Brochures went up a little bit, and that's those Beartooth Highway maps, and a lot of the little print stuff that you can get at the chamber that people really love to see. Contract services, that's just our accountant, and any other little small things that we need. Event sponsorships went up again, just we'd love to see some more coming into town, especially off-season. Our operating costs barely went up. Travel and meeting, again, that stayed the same. That's just to send people to the governor's conference and state meetings. And then that left us with $31,292 with our opportunity fund. So that went down quite a bit, but we have funded some bigger projects in the last few years, such as wayfinding, and we did an emergency marketing plan and strategy with a bigger agency that kind of jumped on it really quickly, so that was a pretty heavy cost that we covered and were able to cost. So that's why we like to have a fairly big chunk in our opportunity, just for those unknown projects that can come up. So, yeah, that was just our total expenses.
I think a big point too is just working with CDB and Chamber too. So Sherry and, just brings up projects that they know about too, so we can collaborate with the funds and pool them together too. That helps the whole town, as we know. It's like when people stay in our hotels and motels, they shop, they ski, they go out, they come back, they shop again, go to our restaurant, and they want to come back too. So it helps the whole town, it helps resort tax, it helps sales and use, which comes back to you guys, as you know. So it helps this town a ton.
All right. And I'm sorry, did you state your name and address for the record?
Tulsa Dean, I forget my new address because I just got it. I live out of town. My old address is 2 Elk Run Drive, and my husband and I own the Yodeler Motel.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Let's just get to the record. Any questions for the presenters from the table?
I had a question. Fam Tours, what is that?
Sorry, for that is, it's kind of like bloggers, it's just a discounted travel program for people who come here and write about or promote our town, and we just sponsor, meals or certain things.
Invite them in to talk about.
Yeah, so like free advertisement with hotels and motels, or maybe discounts on restaurants or something like that. And we've been doing that for a lot of years with Sherry too.
Yeah, and those are all arranged through the chamber, pretty much, so.
Other questions from the table? I just wanted to clarify my recollection that this is basically a self-imposed fee or tax on the businesses that they voluntarily go into, but just the records state that the way that it operates is council has to approve the budget, is why it's before us.
Yeah.
And then the second is you mentioned that there's a grant. Will we expect that grant to come through the city if and when it does, or does that procedurally not to come to us?
That's all through our own board, we process that, it comes into myself, the president, and we review each grant application at each month.
So we don't need to be involved in that
No,
process?
it's how they disperse their money. They have to
For events.
receive for if an event wants to use TBID money, they fill out a grant application to TBID.
Oh, you're the grantor, not the grantee.
Right, yes.
Because it has to, so it has to put heads in beds, so they'll put on there like, high, low, medium. Are people gonna stay, or like coming for a day event and they're gonna drive back to Billings or Cody? But if they're maybe 2 or 3 hours or further, then they're probably gonna stay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
or like events that have registration the night before, so it's kind of keeping them here for a little bit longer, especially when they can tag team with other organizations.
I misunderstood when you said grant. I was thinking you were the grantee, not the grantor. I wondered if that was needed.
We don't, I have no idea. We give the money away.
Yeah.
I just read the slide funny.
But the main focus is just letting everybody know, because we know what summer is. So like Renaissance Fair is newer, they might need some help after COVID 20 and 21, but just like encouraging people and educating them and being like, yes, we would love to have an event with 500 people on October 1st or April, at the end of April. So trying to encourage the shoulder seasons too.
Yep, so we review that with all the questionnaire, we ask what their marketing plan is, who they're marketing to, and then they ask for specifics on, if they want to run a $500 campaign, they'll ask for that in their grant.
Okay. I'm going to exercise chair's discretion to open it up. Are there any questions from the public that they'd like to ask at this point? Seeing none in the room, any questions online? Going twice? Going 3 times? I'll bring it back to the table. There is a motion on the floor to approve the TBID budget as presented. Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and get a vote.
Conley?
Yeah.
Daniel? Yes. Keith?
Yep.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Tupin? Yes.
Motion passes. All right, let's move on to the part of our agenda where the council standing committees give us an opportunity for a brief update on what they're working on, and particularly if there's anything that requires input of the full council as you move forward putting things in place. We'll start with public health and safety.
Yes, we discussed the, traffic issue with large events, what we could possibly do. We recognized that the problem wasn't the traffic, it was the parking, and the parking problem was the 40 volunteers to park were 1 to 3. We had differing numbers. People showed up to park. So, we talked about maybe asking the events to pay instead of having volunteers, where 39 don't show up because it's volunteered and it's a beautiful day. So we kind of had that discussion that we should keep an eye on that. We also said that if city or county staff need to step in to help with these events, one of the county commissioners already said that they would charge the event for their time, and that the city should also consider charging if in fact we have to use city resources to help the event, in this case parking or whatever.
Something outside the plan.
Something
Yeah, so we,
outside.
unforeseen.
We also kind of discussed whether or not, well, I had heard in the committee meeting that Mr. Mayor had drawn up a parking plan, which I thought was a great idea, to provide these, promoters so that they could get the best use out of the plan for parking, as long as there wasn't a trailer behind. And I just wanted to make sure that there were plenty of handicapped spots for them. So that was one question. The Board of Education is moving forward with negotiations with the mayor and the chief to pay for a school resource officer. It's expected that the SRO will cover all 3 schools and spend about 75% of his or her time there. The city will need to cover the balance of 25% of their salary. Chief Schrock is expecting to hire outside of his current staff. Nobody raised their hand to work in the schools. And an SRO does need extra training, at least a week extra training, to be a school resource officer. So that's really good news, and we look forward to figuring out how to come up with 25% of a new police school resource officer. We also discussed drafting a resolution directing the mayor to maintain at least 7 officers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is the level we've been at for the last 30 years, 7 officers. And they can do it with 7 officers, but we have in the past dropped way below that. So we'd like not to drop below 7 officers in the future. We also discussed directing the mayor to look into some sort of public relations plan for our police force. You know, gift certificates for ice cream for kids. We just need some good PR for our police, ride-alongs for the adults and ice cream for the kids. So, anybody who has any ideas about some sort of, public relations, we need to make sure that, especially with a new SRO, so we're training the kids not to be afraid of the police, but to respect the police and perhaps even go into law enforcement in the future. So we thought that was important.
All right, thank you. I will take that up with staff. Anything else from Public Health and Safety? Councilmember Conley, anything else from Public Health and Safety? All right, thank you, sorry. Let's go to, Admin and Finance. So that will be Council Chair, Council President Ronning.
Well, we've already done the TBID budget. We also started, we're identifying priorities and consideration when creating our 24-25 budget, and we look forward to hearing the presentations from our department heads. Not much new on that front, we just have to wait. And then we went over definitions for our short-term, for our business registration. Chelsea, do you want to kind of go over?
Yeah, so essentially just seeing some cleanup that needs to happen within our registration ordinance. as well as the STR ordinance, and trying to find ways to make it more clearly defined, so that way the city clerk and the folks here working have answers for the public, and it's smooth sailing for everybody. And also just providing more categories to where more people can fit in, and not trying to fit too many people under one umbrella. So, really been kind of cranking away at that and feeling optimistic once we have some more finalized. I won't be on that committee, but I'll still work on it.
Yeah, so we will probably hopefully have this, by July, I would hope. To be, we're getting really close, cleaning it up.
Yep.
So I'm hoping in July, we'll be able to, July or August, we'll be able to have that before full council for approval
One
and codify it.
One of the things I noticed, when I went through and read ordinance 963 is that it really didn't direct, or that I couldn't find, any place, within our municipal code where it speaks about that. So normally when you pass an ordinance, it's to change the code so it's codified, and this is the rule book and the playbook, rather than expecting people to remember historically that there was an ordinance 963 and you're just supposed to know what's there.
And we will.
So I'd like to see that, come out, and I don't know where the appropriate places are within there, certainly willing to help, or staff
I
can be
think
available to help
most
you
of
find that.
them, that I've seen at the top of the ordinance says this changes or adds to, you know, this da-da-da-da-da.
Right, the
you know.
section of code that
Yeah.
establishes it, so.
Right.
And that's
This-
part of the reason we're actually trying to clean up the the registration code versus the ordinance code more so, to make it more of that, this is how this works. This is
Perfect.
your playbook.
And if we go into the short-term, you know, the STR ordinance itself as well, we will add that line in there to show, because it's not in there right now, it's not codified at all.
Yeah, and it needs to be as part of, when you publish those ordinances, it needs to state what we're doing as we're updating the municipal code section X.Y accordingly, so thank you.
Yeah, that will be part of it.
All right.
I would say probably August, to be on the safe side.
July, September.
September, okay. I'm too optimistic.
There's budget
Okay.
season, and
Yeah.
it's a big project.
It is a big
And
project, yeah.
it's gonna require a lot of
How
staff
about-
input as well.
Yes, by the end of the year, we will have it done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't- And it's more important to do it right
Yes,
than it is to do it right now.
Absolutely,
We have a level of operation that we're achieving right now, but each month that goes by, we understand where the limitations are, what needs to be fixed in there.
My goal is to have this done before we have a change of council again. So we
All right.
have to have that done. We're done.
I'm happy to hear. Anything else?
Unless, Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay.
Covered it, thank you.
All right. Land use and planning, council or standing committee chair Conley.
Yeah. We had a robust conversation on overnight camping, which is municipal code 4.19. Right now, there's a 14-day limit for camping on privately owned commercial lots. That's the way the ordinance reads. And you're not allowed to camp on any of the right-of-ways at all, ever. Now, camping means actually pulling up an RV and living in it. So we were talking about, because of workforce housing, and we have seasonal workforce housing, we were talking about perhaps creating a temporary use permit available for seasonal employees, that would be good for 30-day groups, but they could renew up to 4 months, but it would have to be an employer sponsorship. So, we're gonna play around with trying to write something to that effect to hopefully get some relief for our businesses and their lack of housing for their employees. It's not gonna be a lot, but every little bit helps.
But that was just on the commercial lot,
That was
not
on
on the
commercial.
city right away, okay.
On city right-of-way in the residential areas, we were talking about trying to write this up so that people, when you have someone visit from out of state and they come up with their RV, that they could park in front of your house, actually plug into your power and stay there for a week or two. But we were talking that it should be adjacent to the landowner, that if there is electrical, it should be covered so people who do use the sidewalks don't trip on it. we would have to discuss, no generators because of the noise. And it would have to be directly in front of the landowner's house on the public right-of-way. So we're talking about maybe making that a little bit easier for people when they have guests. So we're still fussing around with that.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
You're talking about, a sponsored permit for 30 days extendable to 4 months. Why the repeating element? And I guess more importantly, how does the rest of council feel? Is that, I mean, this is the opportunity for council to discuss it as a whole.
It's employer sponsorship, and it's only for seasonal employees. So we're not talking about Joe and Eileen that want to be within walking distance or something like that. We're trying to target workforce.
The other concern that I had to do within the public right-of-way, when you talk about adjacent to your property, from my time on the planning board and previous time on council, my understanding has always been that parallel parking or public parking is just exactly that. And while common courtesy will dictate that, you know, you park in front of your place and not in front of somebody else's place, my recollection is that we couldn't legally, it got really tricky if you tried to enforce that in any way, shape, or form.
And we found in the past that the enforcement happens when somebody complains.
That being said, like, end of the day, I don't think you can write something that if someone complained and you have to come and enforce it,
It
has to be enforceable.
It has to be enforceable.
Well, yeah, and I don't have a problem with having a complaint-driven system. We do that on tall grass. There's a lot of things that,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, I mean, even somebody parking in a handicapped spot, a lot of times the way that we'll learn about it is through a public complaint. But what I'm saying is I don't know from a legality that it's illegal for you to park your car in front of your neighbor's house or your camper in front of your neighbor's house.
It isn't, that's not the part that's illegal right now, it's the sleeping in it that's illegal.
So
So
they can
if,
park it anywhere they want.
right now, you can park it anywhere you want, you just can't sleep in it, you can't camp in it overnight.
Okay.
So,
And we're
what
doing-
you're doing is you're saying if you want to relax the camping portion of that ordinance, like, if you want to camp in the, because the reason why that started is people were driving into town in their RV, just pulling in and sleeping in front of somebody's house. And citizens didn't really like strangers sleeping in front of their house. You know, I mean, that with good reason, I mean, it just, you know, and so that was what was trying to be fixed. But at the same, when they did that, then mom and dad come in with their RV and want to stay for a week, or your friends want to come in and stay for a week. And people down in Red Lodge don't necessarily have driveways or backyards where people can pull into. So they want, I'm hearing from a lot of people that they want to be able to have them park in front of their own house in the city right away and camp for, you know, 3, 5, whatever, you know, number of days they're going to be staying.
And maybe that could be a permitted process. In other words, where the
Yeah.
homeowner,
There you go.
fills out a permit or request, that this is what's going to be happening.
Right.
I look forward to seeing what council comes up with that. And then when you have that and want to run it by legal, please let me know and we'll be happy to have legal weigh in. And if you'd like them to attend a meeting, to offer some input early on, we could do that as well. We may also be able to, legal and then also our outsourced, planning team may be able to tell you what you can and can't do legally as well.
Okay.
So,
You can see that we're trying to accommodate as much as we can, the residents as well, as workforce.
But also have it scale.
yeah, and that's, when you said that as a permitted process, that kind of piqued my interest because that's, I mean, while there's an administrative
Fee.
cost to that, and so, and to your point, maybe there's a fee, which is a level of discouragement, an appropriate level of discouragement. It also addresses the cost, just like business fees is addressing the cost of running those portions,
Perhaps.
has some interesting potential. I look forward to hearing more about
As
it.
soon as we heard the permit fee. And probably the last thing that we were talking about was the MOUs and that we needed a master calendar. We had the discussion that, for instance, Rotary Park, their MOU has them improving the park and taking care of the park, but then the city could fill out a use of city-owned land permit and never even talk to the MOU owner, which would say, hey, Rotary, we're gonna have 300 people in the park on next weekend, and so that way Rotary would know that they needed to make sure that the park was nice and clean, but they're not notified of these use of city-owned land. And so we were talking about maybe, I realize there's a checklist that goes through Public Works, and I don't have that checklist, and it would be nice to just let the MOU know that there's going to be an event there. That was my suggestion on that. And then we found out that Brian is doing a master calendar, so that when you go to approve and permit for,
It's on the website.
you actually
Yeah.
know.
Well, staff does maintain a calendar.
Okay,
It is not on the public website, to answer the follow-up question there. That's something we could probably look, it's part of Outlook, so I really don't know. It probably takes some additional hoops to do. I mean, if council feels that it's appropriate to have that out there, they could certainly direct staff to do so, to make that calendar publicly available. Alternatively, if all they wanted to do was say, let the party with whom there is an MOU know, you could also do that via the application and the process and 960 as well, so.
and that was kind of where we were going.
See, and my only concern with that is we have a lot of MOUs where we don't know who's in charge of that MOU anymore. When we were trying to renew those with the Parks Board last year or the year before, I mean, we were trying to hunt down members of those boards or those committees that were supposedly in charge. And, you know, we didn't even know who to contact on some of them. So I just don't want to, personally, I wouldn't want to add a level of bureaucracy in some of this, so.
We haven't gotten to the point where we've reviewed all the MOUs to find out if they're still in effect. And, hopefully we will go ahead and get a list of people that, not just one, but a list of people that are attached to that MOU so that we'll know who to contact. So that's on our list of to-dos, is to go through all the MOUs.
My understanding is that at least the last several years, the move has been toward MOUs. Why they can be renewed, they've got a 5-year lifespan. It'd be interesting to find out how many of those predate that or don't necessarily have that. Maybe need to follow up with legal to find out what does it take. Does council just terminate an MOU, and then see who comes out of the woodwork to say, no, we'd like to start a new one, and then we do it with the 5-year term too. So maybe if you find some of those that there's questions and they can't be identified, then maybe council needs to move to vacate those MOUs.
I know that it was a couple years ago with the Parks Board that we did go through and we renewed, I thought, most of them. We had to hunt some of them down because they'd already been signed but were not filed in the proper areas.
Inconceivable.
I know, so I'd hate to, I guess my point is I'd hate to just terminate an MOU without trying to reach out to that group because they may have an updated signed copy that we do not have.
Really?
And that would be an action by council to do that. So I think due diligence would be warranted.
Yeah, it's on our to-do list, is to go through the MOUs.
I understand that concept of a to-do list.
Okay, cool.
All right. Anything else,
Nope.
Committee Chair Conley?
Now, the only other little thing that came up was, we all received email from Jim and Colleen Kilbane about Fifth Street parking, right at the end of the school there, and what could be done, what should be done, but I don't think it's a land use issue. I think it's a mayor issue.
I think it is an administration. Given that did go out to council, have you seen a copy of that yet? All right, I will take that as an action item to send the initial correspondence to you so that we include it in the packet for next time. I can provide some additional information, that I met with the school board president and the chief of police. And they talked about basically, putting up some signs that were no parking this side of the road, or I'm a bit fuzzy to remember, but my recollection is there was a plan. The concern is that plan was going to be on a per event basis, and it clearly got missed, this last week. So I will do a follow-up there, and come with a follow-up report next time on that.
Well, part of the issue last weekend was that the backup parking for the school was full of city construction, stormwater stuff. So they had nowhere else to park except this street.
Well, and it's not even that they're parking on Fifth Street, it's the method of where they're parking takes up the road. So garbage trucks can't get in there, fire trucks can't get in there. Now, this is a weekend, but in this particular case, it was a property owner wanting to bring their own boat or trailer or whatever it was and unable to do so. So I have 2 action items on that, to send the original correspondence to the city clerk so it can be included in the packet next time, and then also to prepare a report as to what happened.
The fix would be to widen Fifth Street with, parking areas and sidewalks for the high school kids.
And you're gonna write the check for that?
I am.
It's gonna bounce, but you'll write it.
And actually, you raised a really good point. If that's something that the standing committees would like to take on, is for some of them, I mean, what I did was an administrative move, talking to the school board president and the chief of police, working within the constraints of what we have. I think it's perfectly within council's purview to look at that situation and see if there's something else that,
Well, there's a lot of grant money out there for, the school, safe schools, because there's no sidewalk there at all, and kids walk that street to get to school all the time. So there is grant money out there that we could apply for sure.
If we had a grant writer.
To widen that and, add sidewalks and parking and.
I look forward to seeing what council comes up with.
Would that be, Public Works that would like to take that on, investigating finding those grants? Or should we do it in public safety?
It sounds like it's a safety issue.
Well, I mean, in conjunction with Public Works though, because it is street.
Yeah, it is street,
No,
so if
that'd
you.
be fine.
So what did council decide on that? Where's it gonna go?
Public Works.
Public Works. And Public Health and Safety.
And public health. We will help
We will
collaborate.
If both committees
We will,
work on it, it'll get more.
All right. You'll both look at the different elements that are there.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from land use and planning?
That was it.
All right, let's go ahead and finish up the council's discussion with Public Works, and we'll look to Committee Chair Keys.
So we had a pretty thin agenda tonight, but one of the things that is really wonderful is that the Public Works Director takes the time to go over all the different things in his department. And so I'll just give you some highlights, and feel free to jump in, you guys, if you want to talk about anything else. But so under stormwater, we are 32 days, contract days into our stormwater project for phases 2 and 3.
Yeah.
No surprises so far, so that's good. Things are going smoothly.
I'll amend that to no surprises that haven't been dealt with.
Well, yeah, wastewater, we did have a surprise. We had a sewer main collapse, which you guys all know about that. And grant applications have been submitted for the next wastewater rehab project. There are high influence flows of lagoons due to the increased groundwater infiltration. And so, Public Works has taken advantage of that by looking at manholes and, hopefully identifying the worst areas.
Was that the wastewater PER that you referenced there?
No, we're just talking about him opening up manholes and looking in.
Manholes.
Okay, I was thinking, I say, we did the PER for the wastewater that we applied for, we were awarded this week as well. So
Oh, wow.
we did receive that $40,000.
Awesome.
So that'll pay for that PER.
Nice. Let's see, I think this would be under wastewater. Solar panels, have not, at the sewer plant, have not been working since last July. They are now working, so
Oh, nice.
yay. And they're gonna, Mike is gonna be meeting with Northwest Energy to compare the meters, the net metering out at the, solar panels, just to see that that's on track and that we're saving some money there. Under water, the final design and cost estimates have been finished for the 16-inch bypass project, and they came in quite a bit higher than expected. I think they were expecting about 1.4 million, and they came in at 2.3 million. So,
He is optimistic, though, that there is some other ways to secure some of that funding.
yeah, payment forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Payment forgiveness.
That's our outline.
Under streets, they started chipping away at the pothole patching. They have graded alleys and roads, and the FEMA paving's still on hold until the stormwater project is complete on plat. And then there's an EDA grant app for the street improvement project that was submitted at the end of May. They've gotten positive feedback from the EDA on that one and hope to have a decision by mid-July. This is a $3.7 million grant, and that would go to curb gutter asphalt replacement for following the phase 1 of stormwater. So, yeah, keep your fingers crossed for that one. Yeah, that would be very nice. Pool opened June 1st, and everything's going smoothly. They got a couple of hiccups, but nothing major at all, so that's good. Parks, all the sprinklers are up and running with the exception of Lions Park. They're waiting on a part. Mowing has commenced. The mayor already talked about Arbor Day. And, Public Works is assisting the BRTA with some trail work, specifically that switch back up, the McGillen Trail to the airport. So watch for that. You already talked about DOT and sidewalks. And that was about it. Oh, and we also just heard from, the Sustainability Board. Alan Best was online. He talked about the solar at the pool, and the total kilowatt hours is right on par with what it should be. So the cost savings are about $900 a year for that. He also reported that the internet connection is not required for those solar panels, because right now we're paying about $259 a month for internet at the pool, to, with the idea that they were necessary for the solar panels, but they aren't. So,
Was your understanding that staff understood and agreed and signed off on that, or is that new information?
I think that's new information. Yeah, that Alan researched.
I'll get those two in touch and make sure, because, yeah, it was kind of funny that we were spending more than the savings on getting the
Right?
service.
Exactly. Yep. That was our concern. Yeah.
Okay.
My thought too. Corey Thompson talked about the Federal Highway Administration grant that was put in, when Courtney was still here, and it kind of got buried, and it wasn't awarded, and so the FHA is now asking if we want to reconsider that grant. It was for a, four level two electric vehicle chargers to be put in at the Civic Center. So that was about $110,000. The city match on that would be $27,000. So, we talked a lot about who pays for the electricity on the current chargers, if they need to be updated. Alan Best said that they are still in fine shape, so,
Yeah, big thing was they would need information on this by July 1st to move forward. With us going directly into budget and trying to commit $27,000 in our budget, like if you find it somewhere, fabulous. Also discuss, what fund that might come out of, whether that be parks or streets, and if that could potentially come out of resort in that regard. But yeah, it's an interesting opportunity.
could you get state grants for that?
For the match portion, so
Yeah.
this is through DEQ.
Oh,
I'm not
it is.
sure if we could get someone to pay for the match.
Through Federal Highway Administration. Okay.
So if it's,
No, we'd be applying with the Federal Highway Administration to DEQ.
Oh, okay,
Sorry, I'm just looking at it.
okay. Either
That
way,
almost
we have
sounds like it
already
would be
gone-
the other way around, that we'd be going with DEQ to Fed, but I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it.
I could be absolutely wrong.
And Corey thought that the match would have to come from the city.
Yep.
That it couldn't be.
Because I did ask if that could be potentially funded elsewhere.
And that's what, that requirement is what makes me think that the main one is the federal, because when it's federal, the match just can't come from other federal sources. That's, we're dealing with that down in Rocky Fork.
Gotcha. Yep.
So that's where, when those, so they'll come with their part and then
Okay.
others. And I have seen very few of those that say you must pay cash, you know, it just says, we won't be paying it, you need to come up with it, and it won't be through us.
Yeah.
Do you know what efforts have been made to validate whether there's a need for that? Meaning, like,
That was actually a conversation we had as well, is, and Mike will be looking into that at the current EV chargers to see what the usage has been and what it looks like in the summertime, and asking around for a few folks that spend time down there. I mean, realistically, in the future, one, it could be charged, so that could be money coming and paying for itself in that regard. And again, just future planning for more and more.
Charge fees, not
Yeah.
charge electricity, yeah.
Right,
Just to clarify.
yeah, charging fees to the user.
we'll charge to charge.
Yeah,
Yeah, charge.
Right, yes.
charge to charge. And again, just with the trends of electric vehicles, it might just be a good forward-thinking move, but still having him look at,
It'd be interesting to see how much of that is used by visitors versus how much of it is used by
10 plates.
locals.
Yeah,
By 10 plates, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that has been probably the biggest complaint I've received from constituents is, you know, we're giving away free, they consider it, we're giving away free electricity to people that are local and parking
We,
there.
the city, are
Yeah.
paying the power that's being used by local
Right.
vehicles.
Or anybody, they don't want anybody to get it for free, basically,
Yeah.
what I've heard from people.
Then the last thing was about, we had discussed about the RV dump that used to be at the chamber, and about potentially bringing that back. Jody, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I just, anytime, on a Sunday, if you go to Town Pump, there's a line out to the roundabout of campers waiting to dump. And as a resort community, we used to have two. We had one at the Chamber, we had one at Rotary Park. And then when Town Pump came in, I think are they the only one now?
As far as I know,
No,
Rotary
yeah,
Park does not have it.
we went down to one at Town Pump. And I don't know, I just wanted to know about investigating, you know, possibly having another alternative for people to go.
And it would be nice to have it back at
I mean,
Rotary
it was,
Park.
yeah, that was
There was a reason why.
There's, don't we have,
from Rotary Park.
don't we have private operations that are doing that, KOA, Perry's, the gas station?
But
I
if they're
just,
not staying there.
They can only use it if they're staying there.
If
they
you're-
won't
if
do
you-
it for a fee?
I don't know, you'd have to ask them.
Mwah.
I know, I mean, I guess that could be looked into, but
Ready?
I'm just saying, as a resort community, only having one RV dump in town is,
Pump station access when leaving the campground, according to Taylor.
Yes.
I get that there's a need identified, I'm just not sure that the discussion right now is convincing me that that's something else the city needs to take on our limited budget and
well,
our.
I was mainly
limited
asking
services.
was, why was the one at the Chamber shut down? Other than the, you know,
That was a fee.
they would charge a fee for it at the Chamber.
Yep.
But, you know, maybe people, I think at the time, their public works director also told them that they wouldn't fix it. There was something wrong with it, and they wouldn't fix it, they just wanted it shut off.
If it could be self-sustaining, I don't see an issue with it, but sounds to me like.
I mean, personally, if I'm trying to get out of town, I'll pay a fee so I don't have to wait in an hour
Right.
line to dump. But that's just me. I'm
Take that
impatient.
away, I'll pay whatever you want.
I know, exactly, you know. So I don't know, it was just kind of a conversation more than anything.
So we've covered charge the charge and dump the dump.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that was it.
All right, thank you. Anything else that council would like to bring up before the entire council? All right, any correspondence other than that has been addressed that needs to be raised at this point? Hearing none. The last item we have on our agenda is public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on anything you'd like within the city's purview and jurisdiction. Again, it'll be a 3-minute time limit. If you'd step up and start by introducing yourself and where you reside for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes to speak freely. Go ahead and open the public comment.
Dean, 2 Elk Run Road, I wasn't gonna mention this, but I am, the Yodelers had Tesla chargers, whenever they put them in down there, I think it was Catherine Eckhart, but I'd have to look, they put them in, and they paid for everything. That's not why I stood up though, but we had 3 Tesla chargers at the motel in the back and 1 EV, and they paid for everything, and then we charged and left. So when those were broken down there, I had people come to my place. That was not really what I stood up for.
Oh, good, because I forgot to hit the button, so I'm hitting the start button now.
Reference for you guys, they paid for it, but that was quite a few years ago.
Tesla did?
Yeah,
Tesla paid for
my
everything.
recollection is when we did ours, they paid for it also, but not the maintenance.
They did, because we worked with, I forget her name, and I may not.
Yeah, no,
say
it was, Catherine Eckhart.
because she was from Buffalo, Wyoming, where I grew up. So I'm just referencing because they paid for everything. So if you guys don't want to charge for electrical, you might want to think about, or do want to, they may still be for free, but I don't know. So moving
All
forward,
right, thank you.
yeah, January 20th, 2009, we owned the Yodeler Motel. The Eagle's Nest got condemned the year before, and for public safety, it's terrible to look at that for 16 years. We want public safety, we want sanitation, and we got the motel cleaned up in 3 weeks after the flood. I've been looking at that for 16 years. I see homeless people over there, I see tourists going through there, I see skunks, there's hantavirus over there. So I know that the gentleman out of Billings is severely difficult, but, it makes us look really bad. It makes my business look bad too. So I think precedent is really important.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, anyone else, within the room? Thank you, please stand and introduce yourself.
Hi, Max Maynard, 411 Hauser Avenue South. Ironically, this does pertain to the agenda in the form of a couple of suggestions. You mentioned trying to engage the police force with the public a little more. I think things like having them walk beats or even ride bikes, particularly when Broadway is like shut down to traffic, would be a really good way to do it. Just like have them on the human level. I think that would bring down the intimidation factor and all that, and just get people more on board with what the police is doing. And as far as parking goes with massive events that we have in Red Lodge, maybe there's a way, not necessarily like on the city itself, but maybe we can coordinate with people who are putting on these events to have like shuttle services. Like if we know 2,000 people from Billings that come to the rodeo fairgrounds, maybe there's a way we can incentivize them to ride a shuttle into town. Perhaps like, oh, here you get a discounted fare for like entering whatever event it is. You know, and that would cut down hugely on traffic and alleviate parking for people who can't take a shuttle or choose to drive. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Max.
Like it.
All right, anybody else within the room? All right, hearing none, let's turn to online. If you'd like to make a public comment, please turn on your camera so we know you're there, or at least come off mute so we can see activity. Hearing none, going twice. Going 3 times to make it official. We'll go ahead and close the public comment. I will entertain a motion for item 13. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
There you go, see?
Shuttle.
And I think